Robert Morris coach Bernard Clark Jr., the team coming off a home loss against Tennessee Tech on the road this weekend, their last road game of the season at Southeast Missouri, who is in first place in the association standings entering the week. So, Coach, some thoughts on your team, and we'll go to some questions.
Feels like Groundhog Day, Kyle. That's the thoughts on my team. But it's one of those situations where, Tennessee Tech came in with a good game plan. They did a good job on defense. They managed to get 6 turnovers, and you have 6 turnovers, you just can't win a football game no matter how tough you fight in the second half, no matter how much you try to come back. When you're making that many mistakes, it just doesn't work out for
you. How many, and maybe it's the answer is both, how much of it is what they were doing versus how much of what you were doing? Did they just make great plays on your mistakes, or was it a little bit of both that way?
I think it was a little bit of both. They capitalized on the mistakes extremely well. I mean, a couple of those picks. I mean, you take the quarterback fumbles, blindside, knock the ball out, they pick it up. The other one is quarterback's just got to tuck it away once he realizes he's sacked. We're trying to throw it to the out route, the deep out route, as opposed to the shallow out route when the running back's wide open. So we're trying to make a play, but at the same time, they're in perfect position in order to capitalize on those plays. So they did a good job. And the 3 they took back to the house on us, they did a great job blocking. Everybody was doing what they were supposed to do. They're a well-coached team. They're not indicative of what their record is. I mean, Coach does a great job. Coach Alexander does a great job for those guys.
And that's probably something your team hadn't done, given up 3 defensive touchdowns like that. It's something that's not going to happen regularly either. You kind of, how do you learn from that? You chalk it up, and it is what it is, and we'll do these things better next week.
Well, the positive thing about it, Kyle, as you said, it were 3 touchdowns versus our offense. Our defense played pretty daggum good. I mean, that's the crazy part about this whole situation. Our defense basically only gives up 10 points because all the turnovers, in the first time they scored, put the ball on the 5 or 10 yard line. It's kind of hard to keep them out. So it's a situation where our defense played as well as they could. And they played tough, and it's one of those things where, like you say, you chalk it up. It's like 3 turnovers to the house. I mean, what do you do about it? The bad part about it, points still go against the defense. It's a kind of dog-eat-dog world when it comes to those things.
So this week you play a team that was picked in the preseason as number 1. They've lost a couple games in the middle of the year that they maybe shouldn't have, but they're still in first place in the standings. So what have you seen from SEMO? Obviously a tough task.
Well, the crazy thing about SEMO is running back number 6 is an outstanding player. The offensive line is solid. The thing about it is the starting quarterback goes down. Number 11 comes in, and he's playing phenomenal. I mean, it's like he's an unbelievable football player who does a lot of great things, but he also has the wide receiver number 1 who's been making great plays from. And their defense is stout. I mean, that's the thing about it. They got a great defensive line. They're sound. They don't do a whole lot of stuff. They don't need to do a whole lot of blitzing or anything like that. They're a sound defense. They're a sound football team. They're extremely well coached. They play hard. They run to the ball. That's the thing you notice about them more than anything else. They run to the ball and they know how to compete. And the plan they have for number 11 is just as good as the plan they have for number 10. So it's one of those situations. We're sitting here trying to figure things out because, like you said, they're at the top of the conference. So it's a situation where we know we're going in, we're at the bottom of the conference. So we've got to make sure we're putting ourselves in the right position to make plays. And hopefully our guys can just capitalize on some of the things that they're doing. If they make a mistake here, make a mistake there, we can capitalize on these things and, try to keep this thing going in the right direction.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but so this is the first association game where you're going to a place you haven't been before because you haven't been to Cape Girardeau. How do you now we've talked about your travel earlier in the year, but how does that differ like when you're playing a team that counts in the conference standings, but you've never been there? That probably happened with Brian or Gardner-Webb or something a few years ago, but how does that work this year for your team?
Well, it's a situation where we got to leave on Thursday. That's the first thing we got to do. We got to leave 2 days early. We can't leave on Friday. We got to do the same thing we did when we went to, forgot where else we had to leave 2 days early. So we got to make sure we're setting that thing up, make sure our guys get enough rest. And you're right, never been there. I don't know the atmosphere. I don't know what it's going to be like. I don't know if the weather's going to be, they're saying the weather's going to be cold. It may not be cold. I have no idea. But it doesn't matter to me, Kyle, because, I'm from Florida. I don't like the cold either way. So it doesn't make a difference when it comes to things like that. But the positive thing about this is we've never been there. And we're in a situation right now where, we kind of have nothing to lose, so you kind of work your hardest, when you're least motivated. So I'm hoping our guys understand that and they start pushing themselves and start realizing, hey, let's try to win this game. Let's try to put ourselves in a position where we're 1-0 and get a chance to beat a team that is extremely, extremely well coached and plays extremely well in our conference.
What's one key thing that your team needs to do then to win the game?
The biggest thing is we can't make those vital mistakes. We've got a lot of self-inflicted wounds, and I keep talking about the same thing over and over and over. But I think we've come to kind of a fork in the road. We got to understand, guys, If we do it this way, we can be successful. If we do it this way, we're going to end up having a bad day. So it's a situation where we just got to stop having these self-inflicted wounds, Kyle. The turnovers, the offsides, once we get a first down, now we make it 1st and 15. The missed tackles, not fitting here, letting the receiver run free because we've taken our eyes off of him and put our eyes in the backfield. When you're playing a team like SEMO, you can't make those mistakes. We made a lot of those mistakes last year, but when you're playing the team that's number 1 in the conference, that's undefeated in the conference, when you make those mistakes, they're going to capitalize. So in order for us to win this game, we got to make sure we have no self-inflicted wounds. We got to make sure we're not giving those guys 6 turnovers. We got to make sure that those guys are beating us because they had a sound game plan, and we're not giving them an opportunity to beat us because we're not following our game plan. So that's the most important thing.
I just looked 63 and partially sunny. That's better than 40s, I would think, Coach.
That is lovely. 63 and partially. That is outstanding. I won't have to wear I may not have to wear my hoodie on the sideline or my jacket. I may be okay. I might be wearing my cold gear. I'll be all right. But you know me, 63 is still kind of nippy in Florida. It's still that January, February weather in Florida. So we'll see how it goes. And no, I haven't adapted to the cold, Kyle. I'm never going to adapt to the cold. I want to be at Robert Morris for as long as I can. I love to be here for 10 years, but I'm not retiring to Pittsburgh. I can tell you that right now. I won't be retiring to the cold.
I understand that, Coach. Well, we appreciate your time this morning. Best of luck at SEMO, and then we'll talk to you again next Tuesday this time.
Appreciate you, Kyle. Let's go, Bobby Moe.